It's supposed to be science. You're supposed to admit when you're wrong. You're supposed to be totally transparent about your reasoning.
Oh, that's rich coming from this man. Admit when you're wrong. Well, I mean, like, I get it. You don't have, like, who has the time, right?
Just be happy with who you are.
Tucker Carlson goes on a tear against Fauci. Makes a buffoon-level comment. Is he even right about science? So,
Dr. Tony.
This is why you should be pushing back against Tucker Carlson and, again, calling him for what he is. All right, which, I mean, let's just do this. I'm not going to do it for long, but I'm just going to say that you're a white nationalist. You're a horrible human being. Close your mouth, etc. You saw the bit, right? We're going to go back to this. But there's a reason. I'm not going to play 9 minutes. Don't worry. I'm just going to get to the crux. You don't have to listen to it for 9 minutes. I don't want to listen to him for 9 minutes. Okay? I don't want to listen to it for 1 minute. All right? I take no pleasure in this. But this is dangerous stuff. Okay, this is high level ideas.
Fauci appeared on Capitol Hill today to testify before members of Congress. The topic, of course, was the ongoing debate over when and how to reopen the country.
Obama admits supposedly leaked about Michael Flynn.
When to do it, how quickly.
He's out now. Who cares?
Dr. Fauci left no doubts about how he feels on that question. Opening up now, he said, after just 2 months of lockdowns.
He has gotten really orange. I wonder, is he basically looking to the emperor? Is he like, notice me, senpai, ooh woo. Donald Trump, I'm prepared, daddy. Here we go. I'm orange like you wanted, ooh woo.
Letting Americans work and learn.
Orange is the new white. That is so true.
He said. And he wasn't just referring to a handful of hotspots that have been hit especially hard. Entire states, Fauci said, likely need to remain closed.
His eyes are awfully anus-like.
What I've expressed then and again is my concern that if some areas, cities, states, or what have you, jump over those various checkpoints and prematurely open up without having the capability of being able to respond effectively and efficiently, my concern is that we will start to see little spikes that might turn into outbreaks.
So just to be clear, Fauci was not simply talking about certain workers or even all workers staying at home for the foreseeable future. He implied that schools and colleges will be able to reopen only if there is a cure for this virus or a vaccine. He said that prospect was a bridge too far. In other words, no.
Whoa, just what a maniac. He doesn't want to sacrifice kids. He doesn't want to put kids' lives on the line. I mean, oh wow. Like, come on.
The problem is there is currently no approved vaccine for any of the several coronaviruses out there. We still don't have one for SARS. So that may never happen. Once again, it has never happened. Fauci's recommendation was headline news at almost every media outlet instantly. Fauci cautions about schools, colleges reopening in the fall, said the LA Times. Fauci warned Senate that reopening U.S. too quickly could lead to avoidable suffering and death.
And again, the reason I'm playing this, and the reason I wanted to just point out that Crystal Ball and Sagar should not be going on a show, is this. Once you get an administration so firmly pushing back against the science, and trust me, I lived through this, okay? I lived through Stephen Harper in Canada. One of the reasons Stephen Harper scared me to the core and to the point where I was totally fine electing someone like Justin Trudeau in, is because he started to muzzle scientists in Canada. And that, to me, it's not... I mean, it's kind of authoritarian light. It's one thing, of course, to silence the press. That is horrifying, and I think that is going to be the first level. If you lose or you endanger the First Amendment, that is obviously the sign of an authoritarian ruler. Okay, so allow for the freedom of the press. I'm not saying that, but if you are muzzling and silencing scientists, and I'm not just talking about cutting their funding, which Stephen Harper did. Stephen Harper cut the funding to a whole bunch of geological scientists in Canada who were doing important work on tracking the rate of global warming, things like that. So he cut their funding to the point of making them basically unable to operate. That's horrifying. But muzzling their discoveries, as in silencing their discoveries and or not letting them be published and or not letting them be heard by Canadian press, that is horrifying, because that gets to a degree of which we are unable as a society to actually make concerted decisions. Like, why do I usually lie firmly in the side of science? Because I find that it's really good at making predictions, and it's also really good at helping and or ameliorating people. If you understand what the germ theory of disease is, you're probably going to be able to understand what germs are, and you're probably going to be able to, fight them to a certain degree with more efficacy, right? If you understand what bacteria is, what viruses are, how they work, how they operate, operate, what is DNA, what is RNA, all these kind of things really, really help towards your ability to save lives, to stop people from dying. That's important. So if we're getting to a point now where the scientist is being called out as being, I don't know, the idiot, we're going to paint him as the moron or anything like that, then that's very, very dangerous. It's the start of an incredibly dangerous precedent, and one that I think everyone should be pushing back against, at the very least. It is exactly like Jelkmeister said. It's like you're on your way to the Dark Ages.
Fauci says the children must stay home or countless people will die. That's the message. It's time to ask a very simple question. How does he know this exactly? Is Tony Fauci right about the science? Do we have any particular reason to think he is right? Well, right now, there is an awful lot of evidence indicating that America should cautiously reopen. Sweden never shut down at all, and it doesn't appear much worse than the United States on average. Many countries...
There it is, everybody. Sweden, the darling child of the right. It has been for a long time. I mean, look back to broadcasts from, I don't know, a year ago when every single right-winger was extolling the virtues of Sweden and the Nordic model. In fact, they've always loved social democracy. If there's one thing every single Republican constantly talks about is how we need more social democracy in the US of A. So nothing to see here. Don't worry. We've got the stats. We've got the stats to back it all up.
In Europe have reopened schools, and they have not seen a spike in cases. The state of Georgia partially reopened weeks ago to much hysteria and finger wagging from the press, and yet hospitalizations in the state of Georgia are lower than ever. No one has explained why exactly schools specifically must stay closed. There's a huge cost to that, massive, an entire generation of young people not being educated, because let's not lie to ourselves, they are not.
Well, okay, first off, there is homeschooling, there's also online schooling, and yes, I think the burden on anyone is probably on the parents who, now have to both be the caretakers of their children and try to work in their home day jobs and deal with the anxiety and stress that comes from COVID. All of that is obviously deeply horrifying, but have you ever once cared about education? Do you care about funding public schools? Do you care about the public education system at all? Do you have your children in a public school or a private school? Probably, I'm going to say...
Yet, as of right now, very few people under 18 have been seriously hurt by the coronavirus. So when he was asked about that, Fauci simply said, we don't...
So, again, science. Let's just talk about that for a little while, because science is a mystery sometimes. It's whatever you want it to be. Science it's changing. It's all around us. It's the beauty of science. It enters us, it leaves us. The sun goes up, sun goes down, never a miscommunication. Moon goes up, moon goes down, never a miscommunication. Can you explain that? I don't think you can. By the way, this is the other Nordic countries. This is Denmark, this is Finland, this is Norway, and this is the total confirmed COVID-19 deaths. And, this is linear, so we've got, of course, 0 at the bottom and then 3,000 here. And oh, look at that. Sweden. This is Sweden here. Yes, Sweden is actually off the charts. So, I guess if you want to emulate their model, there's other alternatives here. This is what you could be doing. And again, this one is longer. Denmark, Finland, and Norway. Anyone who flattens the curve, that lasts a lot longer. You have to flatten the curve for a long time. It requires, of course, some provisions and some restrictions, and it's a little bit more difficult. But guess what you get in return? You get a very low amount of death. So there's a low amount of people who die. Now, the people who die from COVID, unfortunately, happen to be old and poor, and typically in certain areas, minorities. So I would guess those happen to be people that Tucker Carlson doesn't give a flying fuck about. Okay, it doesn't give two shits about people who are old or poor or people of color. So because of that, he's totally fine with the Swedish model. They all are. This is why they keep touting the Swedish model. It's not because they think Sweden's doing really, really good. It's because they're okay with the death spike and the collapse, because the collapse is very rapid as well, right? You infect everybody, you infect the entire country, and then as many people who were going to die, and then those who were going to heal themselves heal, and then the thing just plummets back down. And then the idea behind that whole concept, outside of the immense amount of human suffering and death, is we have achieved herd immunity, because every single person who could be infected was infected. Ideally, they've formed antibodies, and they're able now to go forward, and their bodies will just naturally detect COVID, so they'll never get sick again. So we got rid of all the olds and the pores, so they're gone now. But at the same time, we now have this beautiful herd immunity, and the stonks don't have to suffer too much because everyone gets back to work and they can make our widgets, and then the cycle continues. That's basically the idea. The problem being, and this is again is what the science is saying, is one, we don't know if herd immunity would be effective. So we don't know, even if we did achieve herd immunity, if you would be able to not contract COVID a second time. That's situation one. Situation two, we don't know if COVID's going to mutate because, hey, surprise, surprise, viruses have a tendency to do that, especially when they're given really large population studies. So if a virus has 330 million infected Americans, it has a lot more opportunities to mutate. And that one small little mutation will thrive because every single person who had herd immunity before will not be immune against the mutation, and that specific version of the virus is now going to reinfect everyone. So you'll see that huge spike, immense amount of old and poor people dying again, and the plummet again. This is basically the situation. So in my opinion, it's a mask off situation. I think they just want to go for this herd immunity and roll the dice. And why do I think that? Because they've been saying it. They've been saying it up until they're told not to say it anymore. Boris Johnson was a huge proponent of herd immunity. Do you remember when he was coming forward and just being like, hey, by the way, everybody, herd immunity works. Why don't we just get this? Well, let's just all get it. We'll all get sick. We'll have a jolly old time. It'll be corking. My lungs have a wee bit of phlegm in it. Okay, a wee bit of cough in it, and then everything will be fine again. You know, all these people will die, all the poor people will die, but it's fine. It's totally fine, and then we're back to basics. If it mutates, which it has, there's 3 versions of it. If herd immunity doesn't work, which we don't know if it does, you'll just have second, third, fourth waves, more and more people die. And hey, by the way, every single wave devastates your medical system. Like every single wave is just running a shredder through your entire medical apparatus. So do you want that? Do you want that to keep happening? All these people keep dying. The medical systems keep getting depleted. Doctors and nurses keep getting sick. First line workers keep getting sick. Or do you want to look at the alternatives? Because there are alternatives. Other countries have done this. South Korea has done this, you know? Sweden has not. Sweden is the opposite. I mean, you got this far. You got 2 months of pretty concerted lockdowns. Surely you could start doing what actually works, ideally.
The funny thing is, though, it was just 2 months ago that Fauci was in the chorus of high officials lecturing the rest of us that actually wearing a mask was pointless.
Has everyone seen this? Have you seen the graphic, by the way, that they put on the screen? Yeah. Avert your gaze, children. Yes. Oh my. I know they always do that bullshit. I mean, you push it. I would love to have seen, like, I want to fly in the wall in the room of people behind here being like, okay, so we got to put some graphics up on the screen. Yeah, let's put some graphics on the screen. So do we have one? Do we have a Zig Hail? Can we get a Zig Hail? It would be nice if we had a Zig Hail. Yeah. Well, I mean, if we freeze frame this, we can make it look like Fauci is actually doing somewhat of a Zig Hail because, yeah, he's a Nazi. He's a Nazi for the things he's trying to do. It makes him a lot like one of the Nazis.
It's supposed to be science. You're supposed to admit when you're wrong. You're supposed to be totally transparent about your reasoning.
Oh, that's rich coming from this man. Admit when you're wrong. Well, I mean, like, I get it. You don't have, like, who has the time, right? He's going to spend an entire day. Does he do 1 hour of news, then 1 hour of regret? Would that be it? It was like, all right, now following the Tucker Carlson report, I now do the Tucker Carlson regrets. I regret everything I just said. It was false. I apologize. It was wrong. And this is just part of my it's an act of contrition, you see. This is my cat o' nine tails. I'm just going to be applying it vigorously every single hour on the hour to basically admit that what I've been telling you is verifiably false information. I know a lot of people say, why do you push back so much against the conservatives? Why don't you attack the libs? You should be attacking the libs. The libs uphold the system of power. Like, I understand the argument of saying that, like, I prefer a conservative being racist or a right-winger being racist or an alt-right being racist, because at least then they're pointing the finger at you and they're saying, hey, by the way, I don't like you because you're black or something like that. Whereas I don't like other people on the other end of the spectrum, such as, the centrists or the neoliberals telling me that I'm totally fine upholding the system that I know oppresses you, while at the same time lying and saying that I care about you. I understand that. I get the frustration with that. For me, though, when it comes down to it, I think that right now the levers of power are being controlled by the right wing. The levers of power are being controlled by the Republican Party of the United States, and they are just running a shredder through human lives right now. Just they're treating human beings like pulp, and they're throwing them into this giant blender. They're juicing it, and they're adding herbs and spices, and they're basically trying to sell that back to people to make more money. So this is horrible. It's horrifying, and this is why I am decidedly in the camp of pushing back against the right and the far right on a regular basis. That's usually why I do what I do, and that's probably why I'll talk a little bit as we come up to the Vosh drama about the idea of de-radicalization. And because I know right now, Andre Domis and a lot of other people are saying that there's absolutely no benefit to de-radicalization, that has been a fool's errand, and that there's nothing we should be doing in that respect. And I respectively disagree with that. And again, I still respectively would want to push back against the Republicans, because they're the ones who right now are the enemies of science. If you are stating emphatically that Dr. Fauci is the enemy in all this, and I'm not saying that he's a saint, I don't know enough about him. I'm sure he's got some terrible shit in his background, but to point the finger at Dr. Fauci and say everything he's saying is wrong, reopen the country, let's get that number to spike, not being honest about it, because I don't think they're being honest. I think they're wearing their masks. If the masks were off, they would say the truth, which is they want everyone to die who is old and poor, and we're okay with the number spiking up and then dropping because it's just going to kill old people. I mean, a handful of them have already said that, okay? Let's be frank. There has been a handful of them who have come out and said just like, it's just going to affect old people. Didn't Bill O'Reilly say that? Bill O'Reilly was like, yeah, only old people are going to die. Who cares? It's just old and poor people. It doesn't matter to us.
Hey you, yes, you. Do you like cozy environments with other wholesome people? Well then come join the Discord. It's got a whole bunch of stuff to help you with creative endeavors, such as stock footage, royalty-free music, and an amazing community of people looking to help each other out and uplift your content. Join the Discord now by going to weareserfs.com. That's weareserfs.com.
We would like to thank Miranda Marone. You are our monarch, and we thank you for our indentured servitude. We would like to thank our lords, Ricky Pilgrim, I'm Raft, Michaela Schmid, Tomospin, Ferrer Tajon. You are all the pillars of our organization. To our Knights of the Square Table, Paul Parafit, Daniel Kahn, Clement Chutskoff, Alan R., Josh Mickelson, and Dr. Zayas, Dr. Zayas, Cooper Pilot, Andrea Lynn Epperly, Dylan Bythe, Terry, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. And to our merchants, thank you for taking mercy upon us.